It wasn't that long ago that walleye were the most popular game fish in Vermont. The native species suffered a dramatic decline in the 70s and 80s, but thanks to restoration efforts, the future of our walleye fishery is looking bright.
Unbelievable. Gee, look at the fish. Since we've been doing ponds, I've never seen anything like this. Couldn't be better. Walleye fishing has always been my favorite thing. I got in more trouble when I was in high school, skipping school to go walleye fishing. We had the best walleye fishery in the world, there's no question about it.
Bob Sampson has always had a passion for walleye, enjoying the heyday of walleye fishing during the 50s and 60s, when they were the most popular game fish in Vermont. He's also experienced their dramatic decline during the 70s. Today, he's an active member of the Lake Champlain Walleye Association, which was formed in 1984 by a concerned group of anglers who had one goal in mind.
I want the fishery back. It's personal. I want that fishery back the way we had it. And I know we can have it because we're well on our way.
Got a big one back here too. Oh, look at that one.
The stocking program established by the Walleye Association and the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department has come a long way since it began in the 80s, but raising thousands of walleye still isn't easy. The process begins each year in April when fisheries biologists and technicians capture adult walleye during their spawning runs.
The electrofishing for the adults takes place on a rotational basis for 3 different rivers programmatically for Lake Champlain. The Poultney River, the Winooski River, and the Missisquoi River. And we do it on a yearly rotational basis.
Green female.
On the river, biologists measure and tag each walleye. A number of adult male and female fish are set aside in a holding area. Fish that aren't needed for the stocking program are released.
The program goal is a minimum of 3 million eggs, which we know 25 spawning pairs should give us at least 3 million eggs. Some of the larger females will have in excess of 250,000 eggs per individual.
Well, it's a really large female. It's almost 29 inches long. She's full of eggs. She's green.
Green females are fish that are not quite ready to drop their eggs, and that's exactly what they want at the hatchery. The adult fish are brought into the Ed Weed Fish Culture Station in Grand Isle. The eggs are stripped from the females and fertilized with the milk from the males. A clay slurry is mixed in to keep the eggs from sticking together, and within 25 days, the walleye begin to hatch.
You can see the fish, they're starting to hatch right now. As they work their way up through the jar, they hatch out into the trough. They're quite small. They're more eyes than they are body.
From here, the fish are moved into larger tanks where they're kept well fed on a diet of tiny brine shrimp.
And these are the living little creatures that the walleye fry are eating. They're distributed into the tanks about every 5 minutes. That's how often they have to eat at this stage in their life.
The Walleye Association gets the fish at what we call the advanced fry stage, which is right around 5 or 6 days old. Walleye culture is a challenging and humbling process, so we do our best to get as many as we can to survive. In the culture process for advanced fry, we get about 70% survival to that point.
Overall, about 165,000 advanced fry are divided between the 4 Walleye Association ponds. Each pond receives a specific number of fish based on its size.
So this is our fry counter here. There's 8 different sensors that the fry go through, and basically every time the fry goes by and breaks the beam, it counts, and they come down through, and we have specific plates depending on the size of the fish, and then they go down through the tubes into these buckets.
A lot of work for a little fish.
Oh yeah.
Once counted, the fry are delivered to the ponds, 1 in Swanton, 1 in Ferrisburg, and 2 in St. Albans. For the next several weeks, the tiny fish are in the hands of the caring and dedicated volunteers of the Lake Champlain Walleye Association.
Once we get the fish in the ponds, I'm here. This is my property. I walk out back every single day. We have to feed the ponds at least once a week, which is quite a chore. I can see plankton in there swimming around. I'd like to see a little more. The fish are eating a lot of it now. If we don't have clouds of plankton, I get nervous. I love doing it. I want to do better. We put in 50,000 fish. I want to take 50,000 out of there. And I know that can't happen, but I feel there's always room for improvement. There's a fish right there.
After about 4 weeks in the pond, most of the fry are now a little over 1.25 inches long.
We really want the fish to be 2 inches. The larger the fish is, the better it's going to do for us out there in the environment. On the other hand, from a culture standpoint, it only takes but a day or two to have fish roll over and actually start using each other as a food source.
When larger walleye begin eating their smaller brothers and sisters, sometimes to the point of choking themselves to death, it's time to stock them into the river. The risk of losing a lot of inventory is high if the timing isn't just right. On harvest day, the ponds are drained into a catch basin. As the level of the ponds drop, most of the walleye make it into the basin, but there are always a few that get stranded.
We're losing some. I can see some on the top. There's not much we can do about it. But I think overall, I think we've got a pretty good harvest.
Volunteers with the Walleye Association carry fish to the stocking truck, 1 bucket at a time.
34.
At the truck, sample lengths and weights are frequently taken so they can come up with an estimate of total walleye taken from the pond.
0.55.
At this point, the fish are also marked with a dye.
The marking process is actually a stain process that gets done with OTC, oxytetracycline. It puts a fluorescent stain on the fish's otolith bone that will exist for life.
By examining the inner ear bone, or otolith, of several 3-year-old males captured during the electrofishing process, biologists can determine the significance of their stocking program. Already, the department is seeing an increase in returning fish when stocked as fingerlings as opposed to the smaller fry.
Today's harvest was 40,568, and they're pretty consistent in size, and they did pretty good.
After a 6-hour bath in the OTC stained water, the fish are trucked back to the river that they came from and stocked at various locations along the shoreline not far from the lake.
We have areas that we've known from past assessments that we looked at. There's some vegetation, some cover for them, and some food resources for them. So we're just kind of spreading them out so that they're able to find those resources, grow bigger, and come back and basically be part of the fishery.
In addition to walleye raised in the ponds, thousands of walleye are raised at the Ed Weed Hatchery for Lake Champlain and the Bald Hill Hatchery for inland waters. The walleye stocking program has come a long way from its early years, but thanks to ongoing improvements to their systems, both the Walleye Association and Fish and Wildlife are optimistic about the future.
This year's walleye stocking was the best since the program's inception as far as fingerlings go. We had a great fingerling harvest. From Ed Weed, we had over 56,000 fingerlings stocked from our system, and from the 4 Walleye Association ponds, we had over 86,000. So it was a great effort this year.
I'm pretty passionate about it. We work like heck to raise these fish. We want to protect them. We want them to survive. And so far, it's happening. The people who like to fish walleyes are going to reap the benefits of this program, and I'm dead sure about it. And I'm happy about it.